This video is about understanding the impact of an eating disorder. So do you know what happens to your body and to your brain when you are not eating enough? So in 1944 to 1945, the Minnesota starvation experiment looked at what happened to a group of 36 fit, young, healthy, conscientious objectors. These men had no history of anxiety, depression, or eating difficulties. The only thing the experiment did was to reduce their calories by 50%. So next, we're going to show you some of the symptoms the experiment found in these men purely as a result of starvation. As we go through the list of the different effects of starvation, I wonder if you might notice any of these symptoms either in yourself or in your loved one.
The Minnesota starvation experiment found changes in social and sexual changes, which included withdrawal, reduced sense of humour, feelings of social inadequacy, isolation, strained relationships, and reduced sexual interest.
The study noticed changes in thinking, including difficulties with concentration, judgment, and decision-making. Symptoms of starvation also included increased rigidity and obsessional thinking. These are factors which can contribute to the maintenance of eating difficulties.
The men in this study started to experience depression, anxiety, irritability, apathy, which means a lack of interest or enthusiasm, and neglected personal hygiene.
This next section is one that we find particularly interesting. The men started to experience changes in their attitudes and behaviour related to eating, purely as a consequence of cutting their diets in half. They became completely preoccupied with food, to the extent that some men even changed their careers to become chefs, and others began to read cookery books for entertainment. They spent excessive amounts of time planning meals, began to eat very fast or very slowly. Some men noticed an increase in their hunger levels, and some started to experience binge episodes as a consequence of their bodies being in starvation.
The Minnesota starvation experiment found changes in physical changes, with heart muscle mass reducing by 25%, heart rate and blood pressure decreased, metabolism slowed down. Participants noticed gastrointestinal discomfort, reduced tolerance for cold temperatures, difficulties of sleep, dizziness, headaches, hypersensitivity to noise and light, reduced strength, hair loss, dry skin, and for some, an abnormal tingling, pricking sensations in hands and feet.
So, to summarise, the only thing that changed here was the men's diet being reduced. This starvation was found to cause a complete preoccupation and obsession with food, and triggered binge episodes as a result of not eating enough for some of the group. This is all in addition to the impact on the men emotionally, socially, and physically.
The good news is, all of these symptoms were reversed as the men began to eat normally again, with no long-term effects occurring.
So we've heard about the impact of not eating enough on eating thoughts and behaviours, physically, socially, and emotionally. Let's think for a moment about what happens to the body and the brain when someone is dieting. We're going to ask you to press pause for a moment and take a moment to think about how much energy the body really needs on a daily basis just to function. If you imagine a person in a coma in a hospital, not moving, not doing anything at all, how many calories do you think they need just to keep their brain and organs and body functioning?
So the answer is actually around 1,200 to 1,500 calories. And that's without any moving around, without walking, talking, thinking. In fact, all the thinking and clever stuff that goes on in our brains requires a lot of brain power.
Next question for you. How much energy do you think the brain alone requires to function on a typical day?
The brain alone needs around 500 calories a day to function. Did you know that the brain is made up of around 60% fat? This means that if the body loses fat, this will include the brain and will impact how the brain works.
So we've already heard from the Minnesota study about how restricting your intake can make you preoccupied with food, weight, shape, calories, exercise, etc. Take a moment to think for yourself about how much of your headspace is taken up thinking about food, meals, snacks, calories, weight, shape, exercise, etc.
Did you know that depending on how starved an individual is, up to 95% of their thinking can be focused on food, weight, and shape-related behaviours? As well as this, working memory is reduced significantly. It can become much harder to remember things. This can make studying and working a real challenge. As the brain is starved, it becomes very inflexible and rule-driven, as well as becoming very focused on detail. This can make it very tricky to challenge the eating disorder, both for the individual and for family members or loved ones around them.
Next, we want to share with you part of a video of a TED Talk by Dr. Laura Hill, which illustrates what it can be like for someone living with an eating disorder.
So let's just start with you. Let's just start with the sense that hopefully all of you had breakfast this morning. And with that breakfast, you got some energy to start and enjoy this day here at TEDx. So a person without an eating disorder enjoys their toast, has a little more jam, it feels pleasure from what they're eating and enjoys the taste and gets on with it. And on you go. But a person with an eating disorder, such as anorexia, when they eat, they experience high anxiety, extreme thought disturbance, and noise. I want to give you an idea of what that noise sounds like. And so the person who has an eating disorder and has had her breakfast, she's now trying to go to work. She's trying to go to class. And the noise and the disturbance is acute. She's trying to hear her professor through the noise. She's trying to hear her employer talk to her and have an interaction with her. And she's trying to focus through the noise. So how in the world, if she's going to have her breakfast and then she's supposed to have a lunch and she's supposed to have dinner too, and the noise continues to be acute, how can I function? How can I work? How can I have a decent interaction and a clear, focused interaction and get this project done? How? Simply by not eating. Because if I don't eat, Dr. Hill, I can then think more clearly. If I don't eat, Dr. Hill, please just don't have me eat breakfast. Then I can get this assignment done, and then I'll go ahead and eat something, so then I can go ahead and get something because you say you're needing it. But don't ask me to take that test and eat breakfast too. Because if I do, I have to take the test and think through the noise. I have to finish the assignment and think through the noise. So what do we do to be able to help a person with anorexia whose mental noise is so disturbed, yet they need food?
What was it like to watch that video? If you are someone experiencing difficulties with your eating, I wonder if the video fits with your own experience. For family members and loved ones, this video can help us to understand a little more about the noise and disturbance that the eating disorder can cause.
The final bits of information we want to cover in this video are about compensatory behaviours for anyone struggling with urges to vomit or misuse laxatives. How many calories do you think vomiting gets rid of? Some people hold an incorrect belief that vomiting gets rid of everything just eaten. Did you know that research shows us that vomiting gets rid of only half of the calories taken in? Therefore, if you have eaten 3,000 calories, you will retain around 1,500 calories.
Vomiting can also have a very serious impact on your physical health. Vomiting can lead to an imbalance of body salts, which can affect the heart. Vomiting can also cause significant problems with the stomach and esophagus. Stomach acid vomited up into the mouth damages the teeth, tongue, and throat. If you have made yourself sick, it is very important that you do not brush your teeth immediately after vomiting. This would brush acid into the teeth throughout the mouth and increase the risk of dental problems. Instead, it is better to rinse your mouth with water or mouthwash.
For anyone who's experienced taking laxatives in an attempt to lose weight, take a moment to consider how many calories do you think laxatives get rid of? Laxatives are completely useless for weight loss. In fact, laxatives will only get rid of around 1 calorie of the food that you have consumed. Diuretics also have absolutely no effect on calorie absorption. Laxatives can also have serious consequences on your physical health, including impacting on potassium levels and the heart's function.
Vomiting and laxatives can also give a false sense of it doesn't matter what I eat because I can just get rid of it, and therefore they can actually make you more likely to overeat or to binge eat. Is there any information on these compensatory behaviours which has been striking for you? Is there a way you could remind yourself of these key points should you have an urge to make yourself sick or to use laxatives?
So, to summarise, not eating enough has a huge impact on keeping the eating disorder going, including preoccupation with eating, rigidity around rules, and increasing focus on weight and shape.
The only way to start getting better from eating difficulties is to gradually begin to normalise your eating. If you're not sure what normalising your eating looks like, please go and watch our video on normal eating with our amazing dietitians, Ruth and Claire.
If you have any concerns about your physical health deteriorating, please remember to keep in touch with your GP.